It's a big responsibility. I've been involved in lots of institution activities for many years at quite a senior level. So I've got a good understanding of how the institution works. It is somewhat overawing in terms of the presidents that have gone before me, George Stephenson, Robert Stevenson, Sir Nigel Gresley. So it's a great honour, but I'm really pleased that I'm in this seat today. I think there were two things that triggered me to be an engineer. When I was at primary school, the headmistress, who taught me at a small prep school in Sussex, asked us just before we left for secondary school, was there anything that we hadn't been taught at school that we'd always wanted to know? And I said, where does metal come from? The teachers didn't have any idea at all. But to their credit, they went and found out, they found a book, and they showed me in the book how metal was extracted from ore from the ground, heated up, melted down and produced molten metal that could be moulded into useful things. And then when I was about 13, 14, I had planned to be a doctor of medicine, following in my father's footsteps. But my godfather, who was my dad's best friend from medical school, was a keen model engineer. He made radio-controlled boats and he had a lathe in his garage. And he said to me when we were visiting, would I like to have a go? And I turned a metal top from a piece of brass, and I was fascinated by the way that metal could be machined and formed into a useful object. And it was at that point that I thought I wanted to be an engineer. I actually wanted to go into the railways first of all. And I had lots of interviews with British Rail, as it then was. They were rather slow in their recruitment process, and it was getting very close to when I would have had to start work for British Rail or go to university. So I went to the careers office at school, found out other companies that offered industrial training who were mostly motor companies. I thought cars were quite interesting. So I applied to Ford and Vauxhall and British Leyland. Ford replied within a few days. I had an interview the following Friday, started work the following Monday. The strength of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers is that we assure the standards of the engineers that work in our profession. George Stephenson started it to establish high standards of technical competence for engineers that are practitioners of what we do. And that's really been his enduring legacy ever since he was first president in 1847. So it's about standards, passing on our knowledge as a learned society to other people, continuing their professional development, but also supporting them as they grow in their competence and professional capabilities as engineers at whatever level it may be, from technician through right the way to a chartered engineer or a fellow of our institution. Everything that we see, do and touch, from cars through to mobile phones, the internet, computing, modern communications, medicine, everything depends on engineers. And if we hadn't gone through the Industrial Revolution, started by James Watt, Newcomen, through the Stephensons to modern society, we'd still be pulling ploughs with horses. The biggest hurdle that industry faces really is just that encouragement of young people. We know that we're going to fall well short of the numbers of people, not just in the UK but across the world, that we need to become engineers if we're going to continue supporting modern society with all the products and technical improvements that we need to engineer the future. Without engineers, we'd still be living in the Middle Ages. It's as simple as that. We'd be struggling to produce enough food. Medical science wouldn't have advanced. There'd be no modern diagnostic or surgical procedures. Transport would be non-existent, and we would still live our whole lives within 30 miles of where we were born. So I'm pretty sure in 50 years' time, we'll be making much better use of energy. We'll probably be less dependent on fossil fuels and certainly not depleting the world's natural resources so much. The other big change I've seen in the institution is it's become much more active, energetic, a more campaigning organisation. We've grown significantly in recent years in both our membership numbers and the influence that we're having. So I've seen a really positive change in the institution, becoming much more dynamic and offering much more back to our membership and to society.